Assignment means some job assignment problem. These are. Essentially, it is a situation where you have so many jobs, very similar to transportation, but it is a very special case of transportation. So you have n persons and n jobs, equal number of jobs. To make person 1 do job 1, you have to pay a cost C11. To make person 1 do job 2, you have to pay a cost C12. To make person 1 do job n, you have to pay C1n. Similarly, all other costs are given. This is CNN. So the cost matrix is given. And then your idea is to give one person one job, and you want to minimize the cost. Okay, so each person you will be giving one job. You have to get all the jobs done, minimizing the cost. Okay, if you want not to give person 2 job n, suppose person 2 only gives choices for job 1, job 2, job 3, whatever, but it like person 2 does not give any choice for job n, then you can put the cost very large, very large, or even you can write infinity or something like that. You can write a very large number. And so when you are trying to minimize the cost, that it will try to avoid that large number, because it will be very expensive. Okay, so the assignment problem is to give each person one job while minimizing the cost. Okay, now what are the feasible solutions? The feasible solutions for this, for example, if you have 3 persons, if you have exactly 3 persons and you have 3 jobs, then what is a feasible solution? One possibility is that you give person 1 job 1, person 2 job 2, person 3 job 3, or you give person 1 job 2, person 2 job 1, person 3 job 3, or you give person 1 2 3, or so there will be 3 factorial. Such possibilities. If you remember, these are called the permutations. Okay, see, being the top row of each permutation is just 1 2 3 1 2 3, so sometimes people simply write it as an arrangement also, 1 2 3 comma 2 1 3 comma 1 3 2, that way, but that's a different story. That is how you write this. So what are the feasible solutions? The feasible solutions are the permutations. Okay, so the feasible solution set is a finite set. and it contains n factorial many elements. Okay. Sometimes, so what is, for example, if you are choosing this permutation, so what is the cost of this solution? Now, if you are choosing, if you call this as sigma, this is the permutation sigma, then what is the cost of this solution? Now this will be C1, the cost of C1 sigma 1 plus C2 sigma 2 plus C3 sigma 3. Here what is the case for this sigma? And this is C11 plus C23. That is, first person takes first job, so C11 will be considered. Second person takes third job, so that is the cost you have to pay is C23. And third person takes second job, so that will be the cost. And you want to minimize this C sigma over all sigma, sigma belonging to Sn, capital Sn. Capital Sn means this is the set of, this is the set of all permutations of bracket n. Bracket n is like a combinatorial small symbol for 1 to dot 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 n, this set. Okay, many a time we use this square bracket n to denote the set 1 comma 2 comma dot 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 comma n. This permutation sigma, this particular permutation sigma, the third one, 1 2 3 going to 1 3 2. Okay, that can also be viewed as a matrix. Okay, you can simply put as if you have chosen this one, 1 going to 1, so there you have a 1, then 2 going to 3 and 3 going to 2. So these type of matrices are called permutation matrices. We already have talked about permutation matrices. Okay, remember that permutation matrices are the vertices of the polytope. Okay, of the polytope. What is that? The set of all doubly stochastic matrices. Okay, these are the vertices. These are precisely the vertices. But nevertheless, right now what has happened? Now, right now I have n factorial permutations. Okay, so these are some distinct finite objects. I do not have a convex set now. Okay, I do not have a convex set, and I am trying to find out of all these which one is going to minimize the cost, which permutation. Okay, so our aim is to minimize C sigma over Sn, the set of all permutations of the set n set. Now if you try to do that by checking each permutation, each and every permutation, then for n something like 50 or so, it will take lots of time, huge amount of time, very impractical. So that is not the way. I mean, check one by one. By the way, do you know how to generate a list of, so suppose I give you n equal to 9, so there are 9 factorial permutations. Do you know how to list down all permutations one by one by one? And that's easy. If you think, you can easily do that. Okay, so if you generate a list and try testing, try evaluating C sigma for each sigma and try to do it, it is very, very impractical. That's not a good thing. You can view this uh, assignment problem as a BTP or LPP. See, you can see this as a balanced transportation problem. What will happen is that everywhere the capacity, so you can see the n persons are like the sources, each having capacity 1, and the jobs are like sinks, each having capacity 1. And then the Cij are cost of transportation. And since it is capacity 1, so a solution, if you want to meet the demand, then a solution will mean that every person gets a job. So you can view this as a BTP. Of course, the BTP will be over the convex set. I mean, a bigger convex set. It will contain all the doubly stochastic matrix. But nevertheless, you can try that way. However, each of these basic variables, there will be many basic variables having value 0. Okay, so it will be degenerate, and being degenerate, you will have a lot of I mean, it may take even a lot of time. Okay, and therefore this problem being a very, very special type of problem, a very special type of algorithm was discovered. Okay, that is known as Hungarian algorithm, or the Hungarian method. So it was discovered in 1931. Okay, first published in a Hungarian journal. So that is why the name Hungarian method comes. Essentially, this is this paper contained ideas of weighted bipartite matching problem. So we'll talk about that. So before you try to solve the bipartite matching, before you go to the bipartite matching problem, see, if you are trying to solve the assignment problem, so then you need to observe few things, few properties of it first, so that based on which you can think of an algorithm. And this is one simple observation that helped. What it says, now I will give you one example first, maybe somewhere here. Imagine I have written this is actually asked in many of the quizzes, on the show or something like that. So you write some, let me write some 4x4 matrix. So I have written a 4 by 4 matrix. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 3, 1, 5, 2, 7, 2, 7, 1. Okay. And what is that? Now I want to look at the positions corresponding to permutation. Okay. Now suppose that I choose a position corresponding to a permutation. Remember, by saying corresponding to a permutation, it means every row will contain exactly one selection and every column will contain exactly one. So maybe you selected this, maybe this one and this one. Okay. And maybe I will write the same matrix again. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 3, 1, 5, 2, 7, 2, 7, 1. And I select another permutation. Maybe I select this, this one, and this one. There will be 4 factorial many ways of doing this. This is a 4 by 4 matrix corresponding to any of the 4 factorial permutation. You can select this. If you want, you can also select one of your choice. Okay. So this is for sigma. So for this sigma, the value for this sigma is 3 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1. So that's 11. The value here 4 plus 4 plus 4, that is 12. Now what you do, you subtract each row. Let me give some numbers. Maybe I write -2, -1, -1, maybe +2. +2 means each row element would be added 2, 2, 2, 2. And then each column, maybe I add +1, -3, +2, -3. That's what I have done. So I'll do the same thing over here. -2, -1, -1, +2, +1, -3, +2, -3. Now, so basically what I have done, now from each row I have subtracted, from first row I have subtracted -2 each. From second row I have subtracted elements of second row has been decreased by 1. So that's what. Third row subtracted -1, fourth row added +2. After that, first column added 1, second column subtracted 3. So likewise, that is what I have done. So what happens to the new value? So the new value would be like here what you have. Here you have -2. Here 2. And then the third one is 6. And the fourth one is 0. And the value is equal to 6. The value has decreased by 5, right? Now, what do you think the value on the right hand side will be? Will it be 7? If you see, actually, it will actually become 7. See, the 1 3 element is 4 itself. Then 2 2 elements is 0. Then third element, that is 3 1 element, is 3. And then the 4 4 element is 0. That's 7. So in both the cases, they are decreasing by 5. Why is it happening? Now, see, in both the cases, you are looking at permutation only. So because you are looking at a permutation, so one element is selected from each row. So therefore, the total change will be the sum of these things. Whatever this is, that will be the sum. So that is -2. And since you have selected like one element from each column, here also the total change will be -3. Okay. And therefore, in total, the change would be -2, -3, that is -5. Okay. So that is what the next lemma said. The next lemma says, suppose that you have an assignment problem with cost matrix C. And suppose that you have selected some numbers D1, D2, Dn, E1, E2, En, and you delete, you subtract Di from row I and Ej from column J. That's what you do. Okay. So that the matrix Bij is obtained by Cij minus Di minus Ej. This is what it is. Okay. Then for each solution sigma, sigma means for each permutation sigma, this C sigma minus B sigma, okay, is the same constant actually. Okay, what is this constant? Now this constant is equal to B1 plus B2 up to Dn, not B1 but D1 to Dn plus E1 to En. This is the constant. That is what we saw. For each permutation, the difference is the same. Okay. So what is the use of this one? No, you just wait. We are coming to it. But we understand that if you have given me a cost matrix C and you are saying find the minimum possible assignment, okay, then I select some numbers D1 to Dn, E1 to En of my choice and do the reduction and get a matrix B. Reduction means this, that row I is subtracted by row I minus, Di is subtracted from row I, Ej is subtracted from column J, whatever new matrix I have got. If I solve the assignment problem for that matrix, that new matrix B, then I am done. Why? Now, each sigma, whatever was its cost with respect to C, its cost with respect to B is just having a constant difference, the same constant for every sigma. So if I minimize with respect to B, it is as good as minimizing with respect to C. Okay. So then reduction is a technique that is available to me. I apply it with my choice, and whatever new matrix, reduced matrix I have, if I can get a solution to the assignment problem for that reduced matrix, I can get the solution. It is the same solution that will be the minimum for the original cost matrix. Okay. So What is a diagonal? This is, we'll be using this for this particular discussion. A diagonal means a permutation, basically the position of the matrix. So for example, if I have a 3 by 3 matrix, okay, if I have a 3 by 3 matrix, positions, selection of position with respect to a permutation, this is a diagonal. Or I could select this is a diagonal. So the positions of the matrix. So by saying it is basically some permutation matrix, positions corresponding to some permutation matrix. So we will have essentially here you will have 3 factorial diagonals. Okay. So that is what I will be, by saying a diagonal, I will be meaning this one. This is a very kind of non-standard term. Okay. Suppose that, now come to this one, 22.8. Suppose that you have been given a cost matrix C. Okay. Non-negative. Every entry is non-negative. And somebody has said you solve the assignment problem. So that is, you find the minimum cost diagonal. That's what it means. You find the minimum cost diagonal. Okay. And what now you saw that there is a diagonal of zeros. Okay. There is a diagonal of zeros. Maybe something like this. Some number written over here, but there is a 0 here. Some number written, there is a 0 here. Some numbers written over here. Maybe there is a 0 here, doesn't matter, but there is a 0. So you have found, put this star. So you have found a diagonal of zeros. So that will be the minimum cost diagonal. And that is a solution. That is a minimum solution for the assignment problem. Now why? That this is a diagonal, that is true. And since the whole matrix is non-negative, for any diagonal, the cost will always remain non-negative. And this is a zero cost diagonal. So this has to be the minimum. Okay. So then you have the second idea. Given a cost matrix, I somehow reduced it to a non-negative matrix and creating more zeros. Somehow, I don't know how, but if I can, and if I can somehow find a diagonal of zeros, then I am done. Okay. So that is the whole idea. We'll see how this can be done. Okay. Before that, let's have some graph theoretic meaning of the assignment problem. See, when I have written so in this example, if you will see, when I write a 4 by 4 matrix, it can be seen as a weighted complete bipartite matrix. Okay. So for example, I can write this as, maybe I can draw it here. It is okay. Complete bipartite. So you draw, this is A11 and the weight is 0. 1 to 2, the weight is 1. 1 to 3, this weight is 3. 1 to 4, this is the weight is 0. So 0, 1, 3, 4. That means that these weights are that. So this is n by n matrix. This means, so here it is 4 by 4. So it is the complete bipartite graph. This means a weighted bipartite graph. Okay, complete bipartite graph. It stands for that. So that I will, I mean, it's okay. You can, did I say some GC? This is a very, very temporary symbol. For some time I will be writing this, just for 15 minutes or so. This is GC, the graph of C. Okay. This is not gamma C. Gamma will discuss later. Fine, no problem. I want to view the non-negative matrix as a weighted complete bipartite graph. Fine, my choice, no problem. There is a small diversion here. If you are thinking about how many pairs of intersecting lines are there, well, that is not part of my discussion. I mean, my aim, you can think about it if you want. Okay. What is a matching? A matching in a graph G is a collection of edges which do not share any end vertices. Okay. So that is, for example, in this, you can take one edge L1 to R1, and the second edge is L2 to R4. These two will be a matching. So basically it's a collection of edges such that no two of them is sharing an end vertex. Okay, so that is what it is. So here, for example, you can have L1 R1 and L2 R3. That is a matching. This is a matching. Maximum matching. Now, it is a matching in a graph G that has the maximum size. Here, this matching has size 2. This has size 2, has 2 elements. Since we are talking about finite graphs, you find like there will exist one matching which has the maximum possible size, and that's called a maximum matching. There may be more. Here, for example, you can have many maximum matchings. You can actually count, no problem, but you can have many. For example, L1 R1, L2 R2, L3 R3, L4 R4, that is one. Or L1 R2, L2 R3, L3 R4, and then L4 R1, that is another matching. You can have many. How many matchings you will have? You will have 4 factorial. Essentially, they will correspond to the permutations. No problem. So that's called a maximum matching. It is a maximum matching, is a matching of the maximum possible size. What is a perfect matching? Now, perfect matching in a graph, in a general, I mean, not necessarily complete bipartite graph, in any graph, any simple graph. So it is a matching that involves all the vertices of the graph, which basically means all the vertices will be involved. So it means if the matching contains 10 edges, so then there will be 20 vertices of the graph. Okay, 20 vertices of the graph, and you have found a collection of 10 edges in the graph such that no two edges share an end vertex. So, for example, this has two perfect matchings. Either you select this or you select this. Okay. And a graph that has odd number of vertices will never have a perfect matching. I mean, because the set of vertices, so that is always going to be even if you are having a perfect matching. Okay. So in a complete bipartite graph, you will have n factorial many perfect matching, and they will correspond to the diagonal itself. That is, they will correspond to the permutations. Okay. And the cost, that is weight of a matching, is the sum of the weights of the edges that are invert. Okay. That is cost of a matching. So I mean, that is what we don't have to do anything else. So then the assignment problem asks us to find a minimum cost perfect matching from the graph GC. C given, draw the complete bipartite graph GC, weighted complete bipartite graph. Okay, that is GC. And then it is asking you, okay, look at all possible perfect matchings. This is a complete bipartite graph, NKNN, something like that, weighted. And look at each perfect matching and find the cost, find the minimum cost perfect matching. Minimum cost perfect matching. Okay. Now, do we know first how to find a maximum matching in a given bipartite graph? Not necessarily complete. Okay, in a complete bipartite graph, you have nothing. I mean, maximum matching means a permutation. There are n factorial many. That is nothing to be. There is nothing to be found there. But if I have given you some arbitrary bipartite graph of like n parts are size n, okay, how do I know whether that bipartite graph has a maximum matching? And I mean, not how do I know, but how do I find a maximum matching? Because given any bipartite graph, you will always find a maximum matching. The reason I am asking this, because I will be trying to know whether it has a perfect matching. And perfect matching means it is the size has to be, the maximum matching size has to be n. Okay. So first of all, how to find a maximum matching at all? So that has to be required. I mean, that is needed first. Okay. And since we are interested in finding out diagonals of zeros, so essentially what we are going to do is that we are going to consider, given a matrix, non-negative matrix, we are going to consider a corresponding bipartite graph taking zeros as the edges, because we are interested in finding out a diagonal that is a perfect matching of zero weights, okay, or a diagonal of zeros. So for example, here is the C that I have 0 1 3 0 0 2 1 1 1 0 0 1 2 2 0 1. So the first one is L1 to R1. I have drawn an edge because here is a 0. Then L1 to R4 I have drawn an edge because of this 0, the 1/4 position. L2 to R1 I have drawn an edge because of this 0. And then wherever there is a 0 I have drawn an edge. Why I have drawn this graph? I am denoting this graph as gamma c. Okay, normally gamma c in a 0 1 matrix, normally we would take 1 for edges, but here in this section our interest is in the zeros. We'll take zeros for the edges. Why? Now, because if somehow I can find a diagonal of zeros, so if I can find a perfect matching inside these zeros, then I am done. I have got my minimum solution. Okay, so thinking that, this is the idea. Now few terminologies. Given the matrix C, okay, given the matrix C, an element 0 of C will be called a point. Okay, so in gamma C, this is gamma C. This one is gamma C. In gamma C, it means an edge. Okay, a row or a column of C is called a line, and in gamma C it stands for a vertex. Actually, in C, this 1, 3, 2, 1, 1, all these, I mean, positive numbers are not so important. They will be not so important during the stage of finding the maximum matching, but they will be required in the next step for further reduction. But in one reduction, after one reduction, when you are trying to find the maximum matching, these numbers can be replaced by stars. Okay. Okay. A set of points in C means the matrix, are called independent. Set of points means set of zeros, are called independent if no 2 points are contained in a line. Remember, line means a row or column. For example, the 0 in 1 1 position and the 0 in 1 4 position. The 0 in 1 1 position and the 0 in 1 4 position. If I take these two zeros, they are not independent because they are contained in the same row, in a line, in the same line. However, if I take the position 1 1, the position 3 2, the position 4 3, and I take this 3, these three positions, these three zeros are independent because no two of them are contained in a line. Correspondingly, it means they correspond to a matching. Okay, that is, this means the line from L1 to R1, L3 to R2, and L4 to R3. This means this only. So they correspond to a matching. Fine. So our main question is that given a non-negative matrix C, how do we know whether C has a diagonal of zeros, or equivalently whether gamma C has a perfect matching? If it has, I am happy. If not, what is the maximum size of an independent set of zeros in C? Equivalently, what is the maximum size of a matching in gamma C? So this is not an easy task. For example, you can try this one. Try to find a maximum like maximum set of independent zeros. Okay, if you want to try, you can try at home and imagine not this maximum set of independent zeros. Okay. And if somebody gives a 50 by 50 or 500 by 500 matrix, then will be lost. So of course we need the help of the computer. Okay. Now, if I want to talk about computer, then I should have some ideas on which it will work. Such an idea came to us from the proof of what is called the Hall's theorem. Okay, it's a very famous theorem and so fundamental that almost every, Olympiad students, they know it and they would use it. What is that? It says, so it says the following. See, the thing is that you have been given, so the statement is the following. I will tell the statement. Okay, here also I will tell. So you have a bipartite graph and here are some points. And you have another bipartite graph. I am drawing the second part. This is 5 points and I have done 5 points here. And then there are some edges from here to here, from where to here, maybe from here to here, somewhere. I do not know where to where, where. I do not know, whatever. Some I have drawn, some I may not have drawn. Okay. Now, whether this bipartite graph contains a perfect matching. Perfect matching means what? Everybody is matched. Every vertex from left side is matched to some vertex from right side, which basically means that you will find 10 edges not having any common point of incidence, not having any common end vertex. Okay. Then Hall's theorem provides a necessary condition. See, suppose that there is a matching, there is a perfect matching. Now from the left hand side, you take a subset of vertices. So this is your subset of vertices, this one. This is X, this is Y. Okay. Oh, I have taken A, B, so fine. Take this as A, take this as B. And S is a subset of A. Now, if there is a perfect matching, then all the vertices of S will be matched. They will have their matching partners. Okay, each vertex, and therefore the neighbors of S, that size will be at least 3, because S size, I have taken a subset S of size 3. Then the neighbors of S, okay, that size will be at least 3, because if you assume that there is a perfect matching, if there is a perfect matching, then each point inside S will be matched to some point of B, and that is only that, it is a matching. Okay, so that since S has three points, NS will have at least that much. So it turns out that this is the only condition. So Hall's theorem says that for each subset, non-empty subset of course, of A, we must have NS cardinality greater than equal to S cardinality. This is the condition. Of course, if there is a matching, then this is satisfied, as we saw now. Okay. The other part is very interesting. Okay, it's non-trivial also, but can be given by an algorithm. Okay, So suppose that I have A and I have B. Suppose that the condition is satisfied, that is for each non-empty subset of A, we have, why we must have, let me delete must, we have, okay, we have that the number of neighbors of the set is greater than equal to, number of neighbors of the set is greater than equal to the number of elements in the set. And still the graph does not have a perfect matching. Fine, no problem. But the graph is finite. One can actually theoretically exhibit, all the matchings one by one. Okay. So there is a maximum matching. So take any maximum matching. So we have taken a maximum matching. Take a maximum matching. M. So maybe I have taken some maximum matching M. Okay. Maybe this one is. Maybe here to here. Everything is matched. Fine. No problem. And so that maximum matching saturated points over here. It used all points over here. It used points over here. That's what it is. And there are points here. But unfortunately, they are not matched to anybody. Okay. So just pick any point x0 from here. Pick a point x0 from here. Okay. Is this matched to any point? By the matching M? By the matching M? No. It is not matched. But by taking S to be singleton x0, NS cardinality will be at least greater than equal to 1. It is at least 1. That means x0 is adjacent to some vertex on the right hand side. See, if x0 is adjacent to one point y0 over here, then the size of the matching will be increased. Okay. So what you see that x0 will be matched, like x0 is adjacent to some vertex over here. Some vertex. You can call it y1 or anything, whatever. Not at the below, because if it is below, then that edge can be added to the matching to get a better matching, get a bigger one. So it is adjacent to some vertex y1. Fine. But then y1 is on the top side and it is involved in matching. So there must be some x1 on the left hand side which was actually matching to y1. This must have been the case. Fine. Now what do you do? Now you take, so the I define the current group or the current set. Okay, CG. Right now the current set, earlier it was x0. Now you take CG to be x0 and x1. Now CG is a set, that is the set S. So it should have at least two in n the neighbors of CG. There will be at least two elements. Okay. Now whatever are the neighbors of x0 that you already have, there is, I don't have a problem. Okay. And the next one, it will have at least 2. Okay. Fine. If you want to take one more to y2, that x0 was adjacent to one y2, and then come back, you will have x1. Okay. So at some point of time, you will find that there is another vertex y2, and so basically this will contain, so now you look at the neighbors of this thing, CG. Now the neighbors of CG, so at every point of time you are getting a new point on the top. The moment you get a point at the bottom, your algorithm stops and will give you a bigger matching. Okay, that I am going to say. So you get one more point. If you get one more point, you get sorry, not this one, but dash 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 dash. You get one x2 over here, and then CG changes to x0, x1, x2, and it will have three neighbors because that the condition is satisfied. So you are bound to get one more point and then one free image, and this is going to happen. But you cannot continue this way indefinitely because each side is finite. Okay, so therefore there will come a time when you will go to, I mean, CG equal to maybe x1, x2, x0, x1, x2, and then you find a point y3 over here. Okay, then you ask, okay, who came to y3? Did x0 came to y3? Well, if x0 came to y3, x0 y3 is a new matching edge. Now x0 did not come to y3. Then who came to y3? Now x2 came to y3. If x2 came to y3, then consider this, and then x2 to y2 is an edge. Then y2 to whoever y2 came. So what you will find actually, you will find, suppose y2 came from x1, then from x1 to y1 and y1 to x0. So what you will find actually, you will find an alternating path starting from x0 to y3. Okay, so this will be like x0 to y1, then y1 to x1. This is a matching edge. This is solid. This is solid. x1 to y2 and y2 to x2 and x2 to y3. This is an alternating path. The moment you find this an alternating path, what you do, you delete this matching edge, you delete this matching edge, and convert these three as matching edges. These are new matching edges. So using this algorithm, what you have found, these are called augmenting paths also. So in that case, you are going, you have given a bigger matching, a matching of size 1 more. Okay. So that is a contradiction, because contradiction to what I had taken a maximum matching. Okay. The proof in detail is written over what? Oh, the last page is not over here. I will add the last page and give it there. It's written over there. You can see that actually. Yep. I will stop here. Any questions?